Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you're joining us around the world. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to our webinar, From Risk to Resilience, Disaster Recovery Planning for IT Teams. My name is Muna Assi and I head the product marketing team here at Atera, and I'm excited to be moderating this session. Today, I'm going to be joined by two esteemed experts that will talk to us about their experience with data and disaster recovery. But just before we get started, if you still haven't grabbed your coffee or your water, this is the time to do it. We'll give attendees 2 more minutes just to get to join us, and then we will kick this off. So 2 minutes. While we wait for additional attendees to join, let's do our standard Atera ritual. Please feel free to share with us in the chat where you're joining us from this morning or this afternoon. Hello, we've got people from Canada today. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Wonderful. Okay. Welcome from LA, Virginia, Munich. Hi, Markus. Thank you for joining us and sharing. Wonderful. So we'll just get started in a minute. Wonderful. We've got people here from very much a US audience this morning. Very exciting. Thank you all for joining. Wonderful. Okay, so I think that we can get started. Again, thanks everyone, and thank you for checking out the chat. This is your opportunity and place to share with us any questions or comments that you want to put forward to our speakers. So again, as I said, today we're going to be talking with two esteemed experts about the from risk to resilience, disaster recovery planning for IT teams. In this discussion, our speakers will elaborate on what they're seeing as the primary risks for IT infrastructures today, how to go about designing a comprehensive backup and disaster recovery plan, and then hoping you won't need it, but how to approach an incident response. So without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce our speakers. Gentlemen, welcome. Feel free to get on camera. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining.
Hi.
Hi, Oren.
Hello, how are you?
Great. Thank you for joining us today. Oren, please go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you, Mona. First of all, thank you, everyone. It's my privilege and honor to take part in this amazing session with such cool members with me. Hi, Markus. Glad to have you here. I am the current CISO and DPO at Atera. I have a very long background in cybersecurity. I was an advisor for the Israeli National Cybersecurity in Israel, responsible for 8 years for critical infrastructure in Ministry of Transportation. I've been teaching cybersecurity in Israel in the Technion High Institute for over 21 years. I've trained about 1,500, 1,600 CISOs worldwide. I'm a CISO, CSAM, CISSP, and another like 20 other acronyms, but mostly I love security. I've been working in forensics and incident response on the government level for over 10 years. And I highly am an advocate for research and working on protecting yourself against cyber. And as someone who started in the old ages of CPM and DOS and VAX and mainframe, I've seen this field grow immensely, and it only gets better. And I think it's the only profession in the world that you wake up and every day there's something new and you learn something. So again, it's my honor, and I want to share with you as much as I can. Thank you.
Oren, thank you very much. And we're really looking forward to hearing your expertise and bringing from what you've seen also against other industries into our topic for today. So thank you for that. Markus, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure, sure. So first of all, thanks for joining, and thanks Atera for having me here. And it's really a pleasure to do this session together with uh, a person like Oren. I was impressed about your intro. Wow, I cannot give the same. Unfortunately, I'm maybe I'm a bit younger. No, just kidding. I'm also old. When you talked about basic and wax and stuff like this, I remember my first virus I produced. Shame on me. Was in Turbo Pascal, so long time ago. In the meantime, I'm 8 years at Acronis as a senior evangelist in the EMEA region, yeah, being the speaker for Acronis and telling the story about cybersecurity and how important it is to be protected and to be prepared. And the good thing about this session is it's a topic which is often not seen as necessary. Unfortunately, everybody is talking about backup, last line of defense, but in my eyes, it's disaster recovery, and even disaster recovery together with security. This makes the story round. And yeah, happy to talk about this important topic. As said, often people they don't see really the necessity of it, and totally forgot about disaster recovery. And then if things happen, and trust me, they will happen, then they in, sorry for the wording, deep shit. And I have an example here in Germany which happened recently.
Welcome, Markus, and we're really looking forward to hearing about that example and any insights that our audience can get today in order to prepare themselves and hopefully not have to go through any of those disaster recovery scenarios. But before we dig into the topic, just briefly, some housekeeping, reminding the audience this webinar is being recorded and will be made available to you to share with your team within the next 24 hours. I do invite you throughout the webinar, feel free to post any questions or comments for our speakers. We will be addressing them at the end of the session in an open Q&A discussion. And then right at the end of the webinar, we will be launching a brief survey. It helps us improve, it helps us bring the topics of interest, and it also helps us ensure that we are delivering the right level of content for our speakers. So please take the time to respond to the 1-minute survey. Again, as we talked about our agenda, I want to quickly dive straight into the topic because it's very exciting. We're here to talk about risks and challenges. And I want to start with you, Oren. Again, CISO of Atera, but with very different hats also that you play within other roles that you've just mentioned earlier. What are you seeing in the industry are some of those primary risks for IT infrastructure today?
Thank you. So there are many, many risks today that an IT administrator faces or an organization faces. And the risks are mostly, first of all, in business continuity, which means it doesn't matter where you're from, where you're located, what is the type of business. But today we are mostly dependent on IT infrastructure. Whether I can be a bookstore, sell flowers, do something online, a startup, a big company, food chain, doesn't matter. We're reliant on our IT. And the first risk is, first of all, business continuity. So if the IT goes down, the business goes down. This is a direct operational risks to the business. And this is something that today sits on the top level for both senior management and board of directors to continue the business operation. That's number one. The second one is data leakage and chaining and damaging the data. Okay, so we talked about the availability first. So the second one refers to the integrity of the data and the confidentiality of the data. So if somebody goes into our infrastructure and damage that, he can not only stop the business, he can also alter, because data, in the end, even money is data. It's numbers, it's files, it's just an equivalent data. So he can damage that. And second, that can be also leaked, exfiltrated from the organization. So these are the most top risks that I think. And if we look at that, there's of course reputational damage due to either one of those. But again, in any type of risk, whether that's a malware, a ransomware, denial of service, it all falls down to those top threes in most of the cases. That's what I think are today's top risks, primary risks for IT infrastructure today.
Thank you, Oren. Markus, again, with your hat as an evangelist, as a research specialist, and also from what you're hearing from your clients through Acronis, what are you seeing as the primary risks for IT infrastructures today?
I will be the rude boy now because I'm saying humans. The biggest risk for our IT are we. The issue is always in front of the PC. But Oren makes it, he brought up a really important point, and we all depending on IT nowadays, and it's not a matter of your business. There is a recent attack which happened last year to a pub, and normally I would say a pub and IT, these are two things I would never consider together. But hey, also they are using IT, and they were hit by ransomware, and the pub was closed down, and they asked for ransom, blah, blah, blah. So it can hit everybody. I have a colleague in Italy, she's always saying ransomware is not discriminating, and that's the fact. And long story short, all of this leads to business continuity. We need to keep our systems up and running. And this is topic number one. And I would bring this really on CEO level. This is a CEO topic. This is even not an IT topic. This is somehow a CEO topic. And the other point, what Oren raised with data leak, I know it from myself, and maybe you as well. When you open your browser, you have your passwords normally stored in the browser. My browser is always warning me, hey, you have 150 compromised passwords. Please change it. Yeah. Did I change it so far? No. Will I change it today? No. But yeah, that's the risk. And to be honest, password in the dark web is around, depending what kind of password. If it's just a user password, it's 150, up to $10 for a password. So normally hackers, they don't hack anymore. They log into the system. And this is really the risk. We need to be aware that it's not this kind of guy we always see in the movies. It's this hoodie guy. You see it from the back. There is the Red Bull or whatever energy drink on the desk, and a black screen, a few whatever weird crypto stuff on the display. It's not the case. That's totally not the case. This is a big business, and this makes it so risky.
Yeah, thank you, Markus, and I absolutely agree. Again, from our perspective, and from what you're seeing, okay, with those specific challenges, is there anything unique or different if we look at MSPs versus internal corporate IT departments?
If I may go first, for sure, it is. Unfortunately, for the MSP, it's even harder. It's a bigger challenge because as an internal IT, I'm only in charge of my IT. So decisions may be faster, maybe easier, depending on the budget, as always. But as an MSP, I'm in charge of many customers. And sometimes even systems get hijacked. So deployment models get hijacked. So people or the cyber criminals can use my own tools to whatever infect my customers at the end, which means reputation wise, if something happened, even if I'm not really the case that I missed something. But at the end, customers talk to each other and they say, hey, this MSP failed on my system. We got ransomware. We were not protected. And then he's telling to his friend on a conference, whatever, and he said, hey, I'm using the same MSP. So let's cancel and move on. So for them, there's even a higher risk, not only really on IT-wise, also on reputation as said. And for sure, he needs to do more because he needs to look and monitor on all his customers, which means normally this is really a 24/7 job, to be honest, because as a global partner, maybe you have different time zones you need to deal with. So you need to be aware, you need to have a good team, and you need to have a fast team, because in all these kinds of attacks, whatever it is, time matters. This is a big topic. So yeah, again, MSP, the risk for an MSP is way higher, but not for himself. It's more, as said, his reputation, that his customer face something. He needs to do even more than the internal IT. Not saying that they are easy to handle or just install something and you're good to go. That's what people often think. I installed something. I heard just last week on a conference, somebody told me this funny story. Hey, now we have a solution using AI, so we are safe. We don't need to do anything else anymore. And I said, really? Okay. I wouldn't trust the AI, to be honest. So yeah.
I would say we wouldn't trust the AI to do all of the solution, but definitely one of the elements and the values that AI is bringing into this domain is in itself a topic that I'd love to run with you. And I know Acronis are also investing in that space. Is there anything you'd like to add to this, Oren, in terms of the challenges that you're seeing unique?
Yes, I totally agree with Markus, but I'll put a more emphasis on this. We are relying upon MSPs and we're giving them almost full access, unlimited. Hence, they are becoming a major threat to us due to supply chain. And we've seen what happened in supply chain. We need to validate, and we mostly don't validate that. So if I'm an internal IT, I need to protect and educate my employees against phishing, and that will damage my organization. But if an MSP that has access to my platforms, my IT or anything, if his employees have a phishing attack, that can damage all his customers. And his customer are depending on him as a supply chain. So this emphasizes even more the common threats for MSPs. For example, adversaries are targeting MSPs, and for them it's a high value target, because once they get that, they are multiply hundreds or 1,000 time folds. So hence they're targeting this, and we've seen this happening in many incidents before throughout the last 2-3 years. So yes, this is the supply chain, and also the human element that Markus mentioned earlier is even more stronger here. So yes, knock. We need to educate, the MSP need to educate against phishing, social engineering, inside threat, and be more vigilant to protect his own, because of his responsibility. Because if something happens to him and there's an open door, that can damage his own customer, and this leads to a cascading effect. So definitely, Markus is right on the money, and this is something very important. So in any supply chain that we're relying upon an MSP, we need to validate his security, his compliancy, any compliancy, and also check him, validate how his security is. So I think these are the best this is the best approach. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Oren. And I think, Markus, you had hoped to elaborate a little better around the consider the expected the unexpected. What are we talking about?
Yeah, that's the old story in IT. You always need to consider the unexpected. This is the point when it comes to cybersecurity. This is the point when it comes to backup. This is the point when it comes to disaster recovery. You always be prepared for the unexpected, which is the hardest part, because you cannot expect what's happened. So therefore, and I think we will talk later a bit more about testing, for example, always testing. People rely on technologies like ours for backup and even for disaster recovery, but they never test what's happened if there is really a case, if it's working. And nowadays, we saw it in the COVID situation. People moved to the home office immediately. They had own devices, own firewalls, mostly no firewalls at home, just a router from their provider or whatever. So the new world, when we call it new world, gets more complicated. As said, remote workers, you don't know what device is on the end. Is it protected? Is there a network protection? What application is on the system? If it's a own device, bring your own device. Maybe this guy has a weird game or whatever, and this game has a tracker and creates a connection somewhere to the web and infiltrates his private system, and then he connects to VPN to the company, and suddenly the system is infected from his private PC. So these things are happening, and this is what I say, the unexpected. Think about, it's a weird phrase, I don't like it really, but in this case maybe it fits. Think out of the box. Don't think about your traditional IT like it is. You need to deal with way more unplanned and unexpected things. And Oren said it, and it's also here a point: communication and training. The more you communicate open with your colleagues, with your customer as an MSP, the more you train them, the easier it is at the end. If you communicate open with customers, say, hey, there could be something, blah, 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 and inform them in time. And even if something happened, I'm a big fan of informing, then get it from the press. I had recently a solution I used, and from the press, I heard that they had a data leakage and my password was leaked. I didn't hear from this company. So be open in communication in any direction. And also what I see often with partners, MSPs, really talk with your customer open, not how to say create fears, but talk open what could happen. What is the worst case? Say, okay, if we do only this, dear customer, then this might happen. And set up like a plan, saying, okay, the multi-step plan, we can protect you here, 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 and the level for sure goes up. So SLAs goes up, and at the end, you have the perfect protection for your business continuity. At the end, as Oren said in the beginning, it's all about keeping the business up and running, keeping the machines up and running, because this is how we earn money. This is the point here.
Wonderful. So let's move on from this topic. Oren, back to you. Developing a comprehensive backup strategy. Where do we start?
Thank you. So it all begins in understanding what is important to the business. So in the many years that I've been in this area of IT, cybersecurity, information security, privacy, resiliency, and I've come that there's always one common thread connecting them all. Almost all organizations are not prepared because they are not understanding what is really important to the business. Okay, the IT looks at the information through the IT's eyes, but you need to look through the business eyes. Okay, and this is highly important because, as Markus said, you need to be prepared for the unexpected. But what is important to the business makes us more focused on what is important really to the business. In any business, okay, has a strategy, targets, goals, and objectives. And whatever I'm an insurance company, a bank, a startup, I have business processes. For example, paying salaries, money tracking, receiving funds, anything, okay? So whatever business processes, they are relying on the IT that we've mentioned, whether that's an ERP, a CRM, any platform. And I don't want to go into mentioning specific names of various platforms. But in the end, it all boils down to a business process, an operational that is important to the business that is relying on an IT. So what you need to start is understanding first what is important. What are the most critical business processes? And I'm going to give an example. For example, in a bank, or I've been a CISO to 2 Fortune 500 companies in the US. There are dozens of business processes. So you need to do what is called the BIA, Business Impact Analysis. So this means that an incident has happened, a crisis has occurred. For example, you disconnected the power outlet from the storage, from the Active Directory, from the Exchange, from the ERP, from the web service, from the SQL, doesn't matter. Now, what is broken? And once you understand, okay, the impact, now what are you going to do? You need to check, for example, let's take one business process, receiving money, okay, money tracking, okay, budget to cash. So this is more important when you need to pay. So after you have all the liquidity, it doesn't matter, you have 20 plus days. So there's more strenuous time. But this is depending on storage, IT, switches, a certain ERP platform, whatever, and a certain vendor and a certain data center. So once you map all that, you understand what is at risks. And then you check what is your capability to recover, okay? Do I have a high availability? Do I have full tolerance? Do I have another site? Do I have only a backup? Does it take to restore 14 hours, 3 days? Because sometimes you have a 5 terabyte storage, you need to restore that. That can take days. And then you see with the right business manager that is responsible, for example, that platform, the finance, the HR, for example, this order to cash or this money, you understand what is his recommendation that he can live with. He can stay down for 1 day, 2 days, a week, 3 hours. And then you match that number that he gave you from the business perspective, because he has zero understanding on IT and what you actually have, and the gap between the current state and the desired state is the plan, and this is the gap that you need to mitigate. So I think the most important part is to understand exactly what are the critical business processes. And I'm going to give you my 2 cents on this. Throughout my 20 plus years of experience, what I've seen is that in all organizations, and I've worked on an incident that had 11,000 servers in 24 data centers globally, and I worked on companies as small as 50 servers. So 20% of most businesses' IT platform are responsible to over 80% of the income on the business itself. So the operational is 20 to 80. You need to find out what is the top 20%, sometimes it's even 10%, that are responsible for the 80 or plus, even 90 of the income. Once you know that, that is what is most important for the senior management and the board of directors and the company. And this is what you need to protect first. Thank you.
Thanks, Oren. I think that is great homework for everybody to go back and really map out those, as you call them, important processes. Markus, it's happened. Disaster recovery strategies. What are we talking about?
Yeah, Oren made a really good point about the BIA, the business impact analysis, and it's also part of a strategy I would suggest. So first of all, and this is part of this analysis, you need to evaluate your risk. And this is depending, as Oren said, on my mission critical system. He named the bank money transfer. I think this is mission critical because this is the main purpose of the bank. So this is my first number one top risk. But there are also other subsystems, maybe, whatever, which are also need to be evaluated. What I love is people saying, okay, the mail server is down, but we can still call our customers. And I said, okay, but your voice over IP system, is it not on a server? Is it not IT based? What is if this is down? Yeah, okay, then we cannot call. Okay, we cannot write per email. Okay, so you need really to go to your systems and evaluate the risk for every system. And as Oren said, how important are they? From there, you have to identify the critical assets. Then, for sure, because we talk about disaster recovery, the next step is backup. And backup here in this context does not just mean backup. This is okay. The importance of the system, top important system, needs to have more frequent backup than maybe the workstation of the worker at the end. So also this needs to be considered. Often when it comes to backup, people have an easy strategy, say, okay, let's do a backup once a day. But sometimes it's not enough. Why? Also, this was mentioned already. I phrase it a bit different. I call it RTO, recovery time objective. So how long does it take to bring back a system? And how much data loss is within this recovery, which means the data loss is always from the incident back to the last backup. And if it's 24 hours, because I do a daily backup, then I'm losing 24 hours. You can imagine if we come back to a bank or broker, 24 hours, how massive this is in money. So therefore, maybe you need to do twice a day a backup. And I know customers, really important systems, they do hourly, even 30 minutes backups job to have this gap as small as possible. And then you need to test your backups, because without testing, I mentioned this, backup is useless, because I can backup for years, and then if it's something, I cannot recover because the backup is broken, because nobody really tested it. And even worse, I know a case from an IT company. They just didn't know how to recover because they never did it. They created a backup job and then leave it with this. So testing it. And from there, you need to optimize. What most people are not getting, or maybe doing wrong, they create maybe a strategy, they create a plan, whatever, and leave it like it is. But no, it's an ongoing process. Your business processes change. Also, the whole IT needs to change. You need always to optimize. Maybe today important system is not that important tomorrow because your business changed. So you need to optimize the strategy as well, for sure. And at the end, because business continuity, it's always in circles. We need to have an eye on it because this is the pure money of the company at the end.
Thank you for that, Markus. Oren, back to you. Let's see. How important are risk assessments and business impact analysis?
Okay, thank you. As we've just mentioned, and Markus put it in an perfect context, it's very, very important, the business impact analysis, because it actually enables to the IT and the security to reaffirm the importance of business process and critical platforms. Okay, so the risk assessment is highly, highly critical to understand what can threaten and damage and cause impact to those key business processes and to those dependencies on the IT platforms that are at risks. So the IT needs to work with the business in order to have the business impact analysis and a risk assessment, because the business impact is only the impact. It takes into consideration, and it doesn't take into consideration the probability. The risk assessment actually goes into understanding what is the probability and also what can happen due to a certain process, a certain threat, or a certain something that can go wrong, a specific threat damaging that key business process, whether that's a malware, ransomware, a phishing, missing updates, missing patching, bad access that was mentioned earlier, for example, broken access control. This is very, very common. Bad cryptographic, outdated components, many things. So the risk assessment can actually find out those key impacts. And this is highly important to do so.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on here, Markus. Sorry, my slides are really slow. Let's get to the tools. Okay, so we've talked about the strategy, we've talked about the need, we've talked about how to go about it, but there are tools out there to help specifically with backup and disaster recovery. Can you recommend some specific tools and resources? And obviously, then talk from your specific space within Acronis.
Yeah, I can. So it's not a really fair question, because what should I recommend? For sure, I recommend Acronis solution. But in general, what I have often in discussion is people try, because maybe they want to do it a bit cheaper, they try to do something by themselves. And what they always forgot, disaster recovery inside my own organization makes totally no sense, because the purpose of disaster recovery is to have a second site. And therefore, I need a tool who brings the data from A to B, and B needs to be really on another location, at least maybe across the street, but the best is really another city, or even cross country or whatever. So in this case, with the normal tools for replication or whatever, it's not doable. And on the other hand, if you talk about disaster recovery, the main purpose of disaster recovery is to have a quick failover, because again, we want to have business continuity. The downtime should be as minimum as possible. So with all the self-made tools, it's just not doable to make a easy switch over to a second site. And if you compare it with traditional disaster recovery, yes, you can do it. But what does it mean? Traditional disaster recovery, in my eyes, is I really create a second data center from scratch, double the hardware, double the software, and double maintenance. So this is absolutely expensive. The management overhead is dramatically, and it's not easy to set up. So in my eyes, the only tool which makes sense is a cloud solution. The cloud is perfect for disaster recovery. And thanks for turning on our environment here, or a chart which is showing how our disaster recovery is working. Because what we do, and I think this is a bit different from other vendors in this case, we rely on our own backups, which means we don't replicate the data. We can use a backup for disaster recovery. So what we do, we take, in case of a disaster, a backup file, mount it, and start it up as a virtual machine in our data center. So first of all, I don't need to have my hardware doubled, my software or whatever. I don't need to replicate the data somewhere. I don't need an application on this to create disaster recovery, or an appliance or whatever. As long as there are backups, we can use it. And our data center is not in the customer data center. So also we have this offsite. If the data center is down, you can start it on another location. And this is the main purpose of disaster recovery. And we call it really turnkey, because it is turnkey. If you use our solution out of the Atera platform, you will see this is mostly one click to activate disaster recovery, because we don't need anything. If we have backups, we are happy, we can use them for disaster recovery. And this is the beauty of the system, because it makes it really easy. Traditional disaster recovery is pretty complex. And as said, the maintenance overhead, the admin overhead is massive. So it's not for small customers. It makes no sense. So therefore, you need an easy solution. And I think that's it. In the cloud, starting up as virtual machines. This is the beauty of virtual machines and cloud solutions. And then you have your workload ready. And no matter what it is, by the way, if we can do a backup, we can use it for disaster recovery.
Perfect. And I will want to talk a little bit. I do see some questions coming in about what is the better together of Atera and Acronis, and how together as a solution we're helping MSPs to reduce the risk. But a question to you, Oren, on a slightly different note, being the CISO of Atera, there are questions here about Atera as a solution. Okay, and how we what do we have in place to reassure clients that Atera is protected?
Thank you. That's a great question. So, for everyone that is considering Atera, current customer and future, Atera has a trust center. Okay, so you can go to the trust center and see that Atera has the strongest emphasis on its security and cybersecurity, hence my role in the last 3 years. Atera has several accreditation and certification for security, whether that's NIST, whether that's HIPAA, whether that's ISO 2701, 2717, 1832. Those are the standard cloud, sensitive data in the cloud, and cybersecurity. And of course, a SOC 2, Type 2 by a third party independent auditor reviewing this. And these is to reaffirm and validate our own security. On top of that, Atera in the Trust Center, as it's mentioned there, has numerous security tools protecting both its production environment and also its development and the product itself. We have security teams, our own SOC team, different theme monitoring for production and corporate IT. So Atera has the utmost importance throughout the company, from the simplest employee to the top tier management. How important is security? And this goes out through processes, to development, to product, and everything. And there is a continuous process to re-improve the security and take it every quarter to the next step. And we're validating this also not only by compliance, but also we're having penetration testing, vulnerability scanning, and also a bug bounty. So there's numerous reaffirmation for ourselves, not only for the customers, to ensure that, we eat our own dog food. So we are testing and re-improving ourselves in every step of the way.
Thank you. And I can affirm as an employee of Atera that we get tested quite often. As Markus said, we are the entry point to most of these potential risks. And so thank you for that, Oren. And also,
I'll just say you're part of the human firewall that we're having in Atera.
Thankfully, we have all the checks and balances in place. And on top of that, I'll also reaffirm we pride ourselves with the transparency and trying to keep our clients informed of any and every state, also within the product and notifications we put out. So thank you for that. Moving on here, back to you, Markus. You did mention briefly, we talked about what Acronis has to offer, but how can we train for these multiple disaster scenarios? Is it even an option?
Yeah, good point. And I saw something similar in the Q&A already. We know about this, and how to say, sometimes IT people are lazy and they don't test. So either you force them to, which makes no sense, or you build it in a tool, and we did it. So we can set up automatic testing for DR, which means the system takes the backup, starts up the DR server, checks if the server is really running, take even a screenshot of the running machine and store this in the log. So you have the proof that everything is working. And another thing, what you need to do, I really encourage every MSP and also customer, if they wish, if they have access, really to do a hard test. For example, having one machine, which is not my business critical machine, maybe just a test server, and then do the hard test, unplug the power, and then start up the DR machine and see what's happened. Can you reach it? Is it working? And then the good thing about this, is you are prepared. Because trust me, in a stress situation where you face really a disaster, you forgot about everything. Adrenaline is in your head, you are shaking, you are stressed, you don't know what to do. So therefore, you need to train and test. It's always the same in life. If you repeat things, if you train things regular, you are prepared, and then you do it. You can wake me up in the night, and then I know, oh, okay, let's click this button to involve disaster recovery and start up the machines. If you never did it and then you face a disaster, then sorry for my wording, then you're in deep shit, because mostly then you don't know what to click.
Yeah, I don't know, Oren, if you want to add to that, or pretty
Oh,
straightforward.
we're good. Thank you.
Okay. I will go back to a product question, Marcus. I do see that, we're getting closer to the hour. Back to Acronis backup for Office. Is the backup done per endpoint or is it per gigabyte? Little product question in here.
Yeah. It depends. It depends on customers like Atera, how you bring it to the market. But I know from you guys, you can do it both. Normally, what people do, it's per seat, which makes sense. So you license on the seats you want to protect. Let's say I'm a company having 100 seats and I need to protect 80 out of them. Then you license 80. And then you do a backup of this 80 and you pay for this 80. That's it. It's pretty straightforward and easy.
Okay, perfect. So within Atera, we offer both options. You can do it per seat or you can do it per gigabyte, the storage that you're protecting, and both of those can be subscribed to within the product. Back to the backup. So let's talk a little bit about where does scalability factor into your planning? Oren, maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
Again, so for the scalability,
Yes.
okay. So when you're talking about scalability, you need to think about where you're going to be in three aspects, in my perspective. That's from my own experience. One, if you understand the entire data encompassing what you need to back up, you need to also think about how many backups you want to keep. Markus mentioned that earlier. Do you want to back up every week, day, 6 hours, or every hour, or every 30 minutes? So this has an impact. Also, when you're talking about the scalability, does the backup target, if you're going for the cloud, how does it compress, dedupe, and stores the data? Also in scalability, how I'm going to keep that backup for how long? So if I'm keeping that, I have a backup every 30 minutes, 1 hour a day, or 6 hours or a week, I'm going to keep that for half a year, 3 years, 7 years. Do I have any regulatory compliance that I'm adhering to? Also, I need to check up in terms of scalability, not only the backup, but also the recovery, which means how long is it going to take me to restore that entire backup? Can I restore everything? Can I restore just a part? Do I need everything? And for everything I've just said, you need to check it. You don't want to reach D-Day and then find out that it doesn't work correctly. So I need to verify, okay? I trust the solution, but I still need to verify it and test its operational capabilities and also my familiarity. Because when there is an incident, there's a disaster, time is of the essence. And if I know the solution well and I know where to go to and I already done that before and I'm familiar with that, that will take me much lesser time and I'm less prone to incident and mistakes because humans tend to have mistakes when they're under stress. So I have the capability to test that out, not when my organization is in the most strenuous and the worst time having a disaster. I want to prepare to that in advance and check that out before there's an incident. And then I can check my backup program and disaster recovery capability plan and make sure it's adhering to everything that I've thought it would in terms of time constraints, capabilities, operation, and actual having the right data. available to me after.
Great. I want to fast forward, Marcus, to you with the question about on cloud or prem. What are some of the deciding factors? And then tell us a little bit about Acronis and how and where you store the data.
Yeah, yeah. So it's already written there, the answer. Select the right solution for you. So customer needs to decide. For me, for sure, cloud first, especially on disaster recovery. Why? Because I don't need the extra infrastructure and the R needs to be always offsite. By the way, also backups should be offsite. Our how to say strategy, and it's not founded by Acronis, is always a 3-to-1 rule, which means keeping 3 data copies, 2 location, 1 location offsite. So in this case, you see it already, it's somehow hybrid. And this is what we see. And also coming to the point before, and it fits again, scalability and also selecting the right solution, cloud or on-prem. It's all about flexibility. So what I expect from a system like Acronis is high flexibility, which means my business is changing, my systems are changing. Maybe I worked with an on-prem server, now I moved it to Azure. The system needs to give me the same flexibility in safeguarding this system from a backup perspective, from a DR perspective, and so on. Therefore, we support everything. You see it on the screen, what we support on backups. And there was a question in the QA about moving a backup to Azure for DR. For sure, we can take a backup from a physical machine or virtual machine on Hyper-V, whatever it is, and restore it on Azure. But this is not a real disaster recovery, by the way, because you miss the automatic fail over and fail back. But we can do things like this. If somebody prefers to have Azure in the backend, why not? We for sure we have our own data center, but this is not the holy grail. If you want to have something in the backend which is not Acronis, go for it. This is the flexibility I mean. We give you, it's kind of a vehicle in regards of data protection, and where you drive, it's up to you, the MSP or customer. And mostly you end up with a hybrid scenario. So you cannot say 100% cloud or 100% on-prem. It's always, you face a mixture of everything. And this flexibility needs to be projected to your tool. And I think we have it with our solution. We are highly flexible. So yeah, it makes sense in my eyes. But I'm not 100% neutral, I have to say.
Okay,
I can
hybrid.
testify for you being a great solution, and Atera is having this session because it believes in Acronis, and I, from my own personal experience, I have the utmost respect to Acronis.
Thanks a lot. This is always good to hear.
Thank you, Oren. And I think there's a question here about what is the relationship, obviously, on a, also being a user of Acronis as a company for our
Yes.
product. We are also a reseller of Acronis within our platform with the tight integration. So if you're an MSP or a corporate IT that wants to deploy to different machines, you can do that mass deployment through Atera. And obviously also see any alerts through the Atera dashboard. And on top of that, you're purchasing it through the Atera platform. So for more details in there, we invite you to reach out and we'd be happy to explain. I want to fast forward. I know we're almost out of time. I want to talk about incident response. Okay, so that is part of our the topic. So how do we develop? Maybe we'll start with you, Oren, and then maybe move to Markus from there.
Thank you. So a cybersecurity incident response is something that is not a question if it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Sooner or later, the question is, are you prepared or not? And backup and disaster recovery is part of the plan. And second, how hard it's going to hit you. So the backup and disaster recovery planning is part of you preparing for that imminent D-Day. And On the screen is displayed some of the steps that are important to prepare. But again, this is just a recommendation. But first of all, as I mentioned earlier, and Markus also, you need to understand what can happen. If you mapped all the critical processes, you protect those first, okay? Second, you're getting approval, all right? You need to understand the priorities of what's happening on the organization, okay? If something is happening, it's going to happen. And sometimes what you do is you break it up to what you can handle immediately. You have the right resources, the people, the skill set, the tools, and things that you put later on, okay, that you're going to deal with them after you have the resources and the people, okay? And then the last one, things that you're not going to handle now. It's very, very important to have proper ways of communication between the various people, between you and customers, having a proper cadence to update your customers, having a proper communication channel between you and the IT, okay, between you and the management. Usually on a cybersecurity incident plan, you're having two rooms. One room is for senior management. This includes, for example, negotiation, legal, compliance, audit, all the right business processes. And you have a technical roundtable. And this involves the IT, the security, the monitoring, the SOC, the technical teams, the backup, the resiliency. These are two communicating between each other. And for example, when we talk about communication, having a different line of communication, not on the Slack channel inside, not on the email. Having a backup communication channel could be a different platform, could be Telegram, WhatsApp, Kaizilla, anything that is, if somebody is inside the organization listening to the traffic, for example, on your internal email or anything, to have something that is a covert channel to that. Also, you need to understand if there's an incident, who do you escalate that to? Okay, for example, if there's something that are required to close internet, that's not a decision for the CISO or anything. That's a decision for management, for senior management, because there's an operational damage here. So you need to have certain playbooks prepared, and there's many lists on the internet. You can find playbooks on GitLab, GitHub, etc. On preparing for a phishing attack, malware attack, ransomware attack, data exfiltration, anything. By the way, I would recommend reading NIST, National Institute of Technology, 861, R2 and R3. R3 was just recently released as a draft. R2 is since 2012. This is the incident response playbook that is the best I've ever read. And it actually gives you the entire inside information. So this is something I put right out there. So once you understand and you're prepared and you have the right playbooks, you need to test that out. And backup and recovery and disaster planning is very important. But I would take that a step further and having a tabletop exercise for the management table and for the technology part. And vetting that people know what to do, what are the key steps, how to approach, for example, communicating inside first and then outside to the public, testing the capabilities of the backup, making sure it's adequate, and then you are prepared. You are prepared for D-Day. You're more prepared for battle. Like we say in Israel, when it's hard in training, it's easier on the real life, and we are very, very adequate in doing so. So this is my 2 cents, and I hope that just by taking part of this session, you are more prepared for the next incident that you might occur.
Absolutely. Thank you for those insights and detailed explanation, Oren. I know we're just at the top of the hour, and we've had a lot of questions, which we promised to address and get back to you maximum through email. Markus, any final words on your end?
I just want to add something here. It was perfectly explained from Oren. One advice, when you have your plan ready, print it on paper and put it somewhere. I had a case here in Germany, a big company, they get encrypted by ransomware, and the the rescue plan was also encrypted. So they didn't know what to do. So print it out, maybe have two copies, one at home as the IT leader or whatever, and one in the office.
So right, Marcus. So right.
Yeah, perfect. Any final words on your end, Oren? Last piece of advice?
No, just stay safe. That's all.
Stay
Wonderful. So
secure.
stay secure. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your insights and your knowledge. And as you said, I hope that from this session, everybody goes away with a little more knowledge about how to keep your company secure, your clients secure. I invite you to stay in touch. Look at our website. We keep doing these webinars. Let us know what else you'd like us to discuss, and we will bring the experts to the table to share the insights. A final comment, please, as we end this session. Fill in the survey. As I said, it helps us improve and bring those topics of relevance. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. And this session is being recorded and will be sent out. Have a great rest of week. And thanks again. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Bye.
you. See
Thank you.
you. Bye.